Faces of Death is a 2026 American horror film directed by Daniel Goldhaber and stars Barbie Ferreira, Dacre Montgomery, and Aaron Holliday. The plot follows a woman who is a moderator for a social media site that begins to notice very disturbing video uploads that look shockingly real and seem to be mimicking an old horror movie. So yeah, this is the reimagining of the 1978 film that I've actually never seen, even though I've probably known about it almost my entire life. Don't know why that is. I mean, I'm sure you know all about it too, even if you, like me, haven't seen the damn thing. But if you're unfamiliar, it's pretty much torture porn before such a thing really existed. What made it unique, though, and legendary to this day, is that it came out under the guise of it all being real. When almost all of it was fake. And I do think that doing a reimagination, or reimagining, whatever, instead of a straight remake was kind of a smart move. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still using the original movie as a jumping off point. It's using the name, which is, of course, at this point, it's a cheap shot, but it's 2026, and it was always going to happen eventually. A Faces of Death remake was always going to happen. We know this. So if you have to do it, I do think this was the right way. That said, I have thoughts about the overall execution. No pun intended. The original movie isn't like a traditional horror film with a storyline, and I do think that a direct remake in 2026 could work and could be pretty cool, but that's neither here nor there. This is essentially the story of a copycat killer who is obsessed with making his own live stream videos, kind of recreating the brutal scenes from the original Faces of Death movie. So I pretty much do consider this a slasher, which I love. I'm a big slasher fan. But I wasn't a massive fan of Dacre Montgomery's character, even though he's fine. He plays the villain here. He's okay. He's kind of a combination of Tom Noonan's Francis Dollarhide from Manhunter and Ted Levine's Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. And that should be high praise coming from me, but it's not. He's depraved, sure. But for me, not a villain I'll be remembering or wanting more of. Then we have our lead and final girl, Margot, played by Barbie Ferreira, who I also thought was just okay. She was fine. But if we're going to compare her to other characters from, subpar horror stuff from this year, like Whistle or Primate, I did appreciate how she had, a personality. She also had a backstory and motives, and, that's something that I really appreciate, and sometimes it's those details are overlooked nowadays. So like I said, she's a moderator, and she's responsible for flagging videos that break guidelines, and all of her coworkers are pretty much just there for a paycheck, as to where she actually believes in helping people, by keeping her platform safe. And she starts seeing disturbing, realistic videos made by the same creator, so she starts to notice a pattern, and decides to go down the rabbit hole of finding out who's making these videos, are they real or fake, and exposing this creator. This is fine. This all pretty much works for me. I just wanted a gory good time, and there is some decent gore here. It's not the goriest movie I've ever seen. I expected maybe a little more, but there's gore for sure. The acting is fine. The characters are okay, but for me, this is just another watchable horror movie. Like I said, it's better than stuff that I named earlier, like Primate or Whistle, in my opinion. And I can appreciate the villain here, having this grand scheme, and the writers trying to make his motives current and relevant to 2026. But we've seen this villain, or this type of villain, before. And in my opinion, aiming for cultural relevance is a risky move. Maybe I thought his motives were a little bit too vague, and from what I've read, that was by design. I don't know, but as someone who loves and needs a great villain in a movie like this, I just thought he was okay. And overall, I just thought this movie was okay. Too technology and internet culture based for me. I did appreciate how the topic of movie remakes are brought up, and how the fact that people have largely become desensitized to violence. And I appreciate a remake that wants to do its own thing. I always have. And I appreciate a good remake. I've said that many times, but it's really just not. It's just really not that interesting. It's a copycat killer thing. I don't know. It just kind of misses the mark. So yeah, fine for a watch, and I would probably watch this again, I think. But ultimately, just not that interesting. So I'm giving Faces of Death 2 out of 4 stars. It's fine. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you at the multiplex.
Subscribe right now, please.